Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of the second season of the Midnight Burial podcast. I got to start this one off with a warning. I'm not usually a trigger warning type of person, but trigger warnings can be useful. And in the case of tonight's episode, it is, because we're going to be talking about Roblox. Yes, let me take a drink here real quick. So, Roblox is in deep water. And the topic we're going to be discussing in terms of Roblox relates to issues that many people can potentially find sensitive and quite triggering. So I will tell you up front, we're going to be dealing with things, references to sexual assault, rape, um, things of that nature. Okay, so if you are not into hearing any talk about that, then this might not be the episode for you. So, of the three of you who listen, maybe one of you is like, I'm not down with this. I don't want to hear it. But regardless, fair warning, okay? So, that is what we're going to be discussing. Now, who'd have thunk that that would be what we're discussing? That topic and Roblox. So, first of all, let me just kind of explain what is Roblox? I have had to ask that question. And what I have found is that Roblox is absolutely for the next generation of player. This is a kids platform for gaming. Not exclusively children, but predominantly children. I believe it's like 60% minors play Roblox, and then like a significant chunk of that percentage are like 9 years and younger or something. Like, this is like, we're talking genuinely, this is a kid's outlet, okay? And it's been around for years. It has continued to grow. During the pandemic, that's when Roblox apparently really experienced a surge. You know, everybody's at home. Boom, they discover Roblox and they're on. Now, I cannot give you like a proper blow by blow of what Roblox is because I have not played it. I know it's terrible. I'm a games journalist. I guess that's par for the course. But it's one. I can't play everything. And in terms of what I report on, what I deal with, this is veering, well, presumably was, veering more into the education, young player sort of realm. So I just haven't gotten around to it. You know, I've taught game design in the past. I like to stay on top of current gaming trends, but admittedly, Roblox it's just kind of slid under the radar, which, frankly, is how it is probably for a lot of gamers, and definitely for a lot of parents, based on what I'm reading here and what I've been listening to in terms of developments. But it's a game within a game. It's gameception. So you have the platform, you have avatars, you can make your own sort of person, but then it's all about the community experience. People come onto Roblox because they enjoy communicating with other users, but also sitting around and enjoying the content made by other users. So, these players will make different games that you can go in and experience within the world of Roblox. And there's a lot more to it than this, but like that's the kind of bare bones. It's free to play. It's on virtually everything. You can get it on mobile. You can get it on console. You can get it on PC. And it's this multi-billion-dollar enterprise at this point. And not unlike Disney of the past, it's one of those things that parents just kind of see, oh, Roblox, and you let the kid loose, and you don't really think much about doing that. Well, that's what Roblox wants. They want to be a family brand. They purport to be a family brand and safe for children. But these recent lawsuits are saying otherwise. So let's get into this. First of all, here goes an ABC 7 news report. This is the LA version, not the Bay Area version. Boo! Let's go. Louisiana sues Roblox, alleging the popular gaming site fails to protect children. So the story comes out of Baton Rouge. Louisiana sued the online gaming platform Roblox on Thursday. So not this past Thursday, but the previous Thursday. This is kind of a week-old story. Alleging the wildly popular site has perpetuated an environment where sexual predators thrive, unite, hunt, and victimize kids. The lawsuit filed in state court by Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill alleges that Roblox has failed to implement effective safety measures to protect child users from adult predators. Due to Roblox's lack of safety protocols, it endangers the safety of the children of Louisiana, Murrill said in a news release. Roblox is overrun with harmful content and child predators because it prioritizes user growth, revenue, and profits over child safety. The company has faced lawsuits and backlash for not doing enough to protect kids on its gaming services. Last month, a lawsuit was filed in Iowa after a 13-year-old girl was allegedly introduced to an adult predator on the platform, then kidnapped and trafficked across multiple states and raped. In Louisiana, Livingston Parish Sheriff Jason Ard said his office has had multiple cases involving Roblox. In one, police allege a man used a voice-altering technology to pose as a girl on the platform. Ard said there have yet to be any arrests made related to the gaming site. Ultimately, Murrill said she believes Roblox should be shut down. Roblox said it disputes the allegations. So let's go over to Roblox. This is their response. Roblox is right here in the Bay Area in San Mateo, so across the bridge from Oakland and Hayward, south of San Francisco. Roblox, as a policy, does not comment on pending litigation. However, the company would like to address erroneous claims and misconceptions about our platform, our commitment to safety, and our overall safety track record. Every day, tens of millions of people around the world use Roblox to learn STEM skills, play, and imagine, and have a safe experience on our platform. Any assertion that Roblox would intentionally put our users at risk of exploitation is simply untrue. No system is perfect, and bad actors adapt to evade detection, including efforts to take users to other platforms where safety standards and moderation practices may differ. We continuously work to block those efforts and to enhance our moderation approaches to promote a safe and enjoyable environment for all users. Maybe I'll just read these bullet points. It's a long response. I'll read a few of these at least. At Roblox, we are constantly innovating safety tools and launching new safeguards. Next bullet point. Roblox has taken an industry-leading stance on age-based communication. Next one. Roblox started as a platform for children. And while 64% of the user base is now 13 or over, that platform has rigorous safety features built in. Its policies are purposely stricter than those found on social networks and other user-generated content platforms. Finally, we dedicate substantial resources to help detect and prevent inappropriate content and behavior. They have a link to their community standards, and this kind of goes on for a bit. And yeah, that's their stance on what people are saying. Now, what's fascinating about this is it sounds like they're potentially full of crap. I'm not saying they are. This is all alleged, right? Got to use that magical word in case some Roblox person is sitting around and listening. But I would say, in terms of what I've watched online, one of the better channels out there is Andrew Esquire, aka Legal Mindset. If you've been following the Johnny Somali madness, he's been very elucidating in terms of that topic. And Andrew, he's touching on this case. And so I had been wanting to kind of dive in and understand, because there's another component here, which we'll get to, which is a user who's pretty important. But Andrew himself has a video that you can watch. It's titled Wild Roblox Case Explained by Lawyer. And I will link to this, I guess, down in the description if I can. But it's about, looks like it's 32 minutes long. It's not super long. He goes through the documentation. He goes through what has been filed by Louisiana, and he discusses the kind of legal leg that Roblox has to stand on. And so I am basing my reaction on a lot of what I've seen with what Andrew posted. I am not a lawyer, okay? I'm not a legal source for anything or anyone. I am just kind of basing my reaction on what I'm seeing from him and then what I have heard with the other person that is involved with what is happening. Uh, we have this user named not Chris Hansen, my goodness. His name is, just lost it. Michael Schlepp, okay? If there's a weird hitch in that recording, it's because I paused, I had to search him. He is pairing up with Chris Hansen. Yes, Catch a Predator Chris Hansen. Because Schlepp has basically made this like mission of his life at this point to go into Roblox and pull Catch a Predator within the confines of the platform. And as far as my understanding is, Schlepp has been successful. He has caught weirdos. He's gotten them arrested. And this got him banned by Roblox. So this is red flag kind of number one for Roblox, okay? It's that this man, Michael, is going out of his way to use his Roblox account to proactively hunt down these weirdos. And he's doing everything he can to ensure that kids aren't being shown inappropriate content, that they're not being abducted, and on and on and on, preventing all these things, right? He ends up getting a permanent ban and a cease and desist letter because of what he was doing. This comes from Roblox to him. And they even invoked the Computer Fraud Act about this. And so they basically turned around and said, well, we're worried about the privacy of the users he's interacting with, meaning the privacy of the sexual predators. So everyone's just looking and saying, if anything, you should be hiring this guy. You should be saying, hey, Schlepp, we don't want these fucking weirdos on here. Why don't we have you come join us? You can make a team, and you can weed these guys out. And not only can you get them off of our platform, you can hand them over to the police. Wherever they are doing whatever they're doing, you can get them arrested. We'll absolutely give you the tools you need to do that. No, they did not do that. And so this caught the attention of Chris Hansen, who's dedicated his life to catching, these child predators. And so now he's going to do a documentary on this, bring more attention to what Roblox has going on. So bringing it back to the Legal Mindset video and his reaction to all of this. So my understanding is that they were prioritizing protecting these weirdos. And they're, of course, they're going to use legal nonsense talk to try to justify it, but that's what it boiled down to. So let's go into this. Why is this, why do I find it so vexing as I'm sitting and listening? I agree with Andrew. I am of the opinion that one of the number one things driving this, because you're sitting probably and just thinking, why would they do that? Like, why would they not want to actively defend these children, make sure all this weirdo crap isn't going on their platform? Well, here's the issue. They've got a ton, I mean a ton of users. According to what I've been able to pull up, 380 million monthly active users and 85.3 million daily active users. So think about that. They have like more than the population of the United States as monthly active users. At least once a month they log in, right? But like every day, 85.3 million. That is a lot of people. And again, the estimates put the number of those users who are minors anywhere from a low of 40% to a high of 67%. So let's just say it's like 55%, 60% are minors. The bulk of your users are children. So, again, you're just sitting thinking, why would you do this? Why would you endanger them? Why wouldn't you care? You're Roblox, you're a family brand. You should be fighting this. Well, here's the problem. If you fight this, you have to acknowledge it's a problem. Recall what I said in a previous podcast talking about Jason Schreier and how I'm of the opinion that when he had gone to the, I think it was BioWare, and he was talking to them about the last Dragon Age game, Veilguard, he was like, nobody ever mentioned, wokeness and, any concerns over any of that. I told you I don't believe him, because I think the problem is that he is an ally. At least he thinks he is. That's how he purports himself. I don't know if he believes it, but that's my impression of him. And as an ally, you have to say, I can't acknowledge the quote-unquote chuds who are saying, I don't like the wokey dokey in my games. Because if you do, you legitimize that there are complaints. You are acknowledging, yes, we are hearing people online saying, we don't like this. So you have to mitigate. You have to obfuscate, push away, say, no, that's a handful of chuds on X. It's not the real world. Nobody tells us that anywhere. It's never mentioned. And I don't believe that for a second. I think what's more important is you keep up the facade of, no, that's not a problem. No one's talking about it. We're going to get to the Marvel, the Disney stuff a little bit later, where they're desperately seeking the male audience. But in the reports coming from the Hollywood outlets, they're not talking about any of the issues with content and how Disney has destroyed their brands with messaging. So let's bring that back now again to Roblox. These guys are like, we've got a children's brand, a family brand. If we have to go, yeah, by the way, we got to do some updates, and we got to weed out these weirdos who have ingratiated themselves into our community, you will have some people who disengage. You will have some parents who say, oh, well, I didn't know that that's going on here. I guarantee you, I think most parents don't even know that the kids communicate with people on this platform. They just think it's a game. Like, I would be stunned if, the majority of parents are saying, oh, yeah, I know that Timmy's on there and that he has a bunch of digital friends, people that I've never met, never seen, he's never met, never seen, that he just talks to about I don't know what all day long. So, if you come out and, we're on the Roblox corporate news page with their whole Roblox response to Louisiana AG lawsuit, if instead it was Roblox responds to prevalence of sexual predators on platform, that looks bad for them. Because it is bad. And this is more extreme than even the Nintendo situation that I mentioned in episode 5 of this season, where I was talking about how there was that charity in Japan. And all these people are mad. How come Nintendo, they're jerks. They don't want to let them use their game. I'm like, yeah, you know why? Because there's fucking weirdos associated with all these communities. And when you don't vet the community in terms of people coming into official events or, activities involving your IP and your brand and your company name, you open it up to where you have the Smash Bros player, Zero whatever, with the white scarf and the orange glasses, who everything's, funny and sunny until, oh crap, accusations, sending inappropriate text messages, allegedly, to a minor. And what happens? Like I said, you have Super Smash Bros. And Sex Predator in white scarf together in a sentence, online, all over the place. It's like, nope, don't want that crap. You take our name off your event. You take our game out of your event. If we want to do a Smash Bros. Tournament, we will run it. We will double check every fucker that walks through the door and make sure it's as legit as it can be, as safe as it can be. But when you have a situation like this with Roblox, they're functioning in a different way. They are not wanting to acknowledge it because, one, they don't want to smear their reputation. They don't want to push away parents. But also, you got to keep that growth going. 380 million isn't enough. No, they want, all of, fucking China's worth of people. 1 point whatever billion. They want to hit those numbers. They want 600 million, 900 million, 1.5 billion. They want to just keep going forever. That is hard to do if you take away the entire everyone can play, everyone is safe facade that they have going on. So that means somebody like Schlepp comes along and you have to silence him because he's drawing bad attention. Hey, he's pointing out all these weirdos. We know they're there, but we don't need him telling everybody. Now, I cannot speak to their internal moderation, how they handle these things, but if you watch the video with Andrew that I mentioned, he's talking about all this freaky shit going on that's just known, and it's mentioned in the complaint, and people talk about it online. Things like how within the community you can just find games that are things like Diddy Party. Things like Escape to Epstein Island. You have apparently condo games where you enter a fake condominium in the game and your in-game avatar gets naked and there's sex acts that are simulated. A woman complains about her, I think, 7-year-old daughter who is sexually assaulted. Her avatar is sexually assaulted in the game. And she has to explain to the daughter what rape is and all of that because of this environment. It's flabbergasting as you sit and you're looking at these things. One of the ones that really fucked with my brain was allegedly there was internal debate at Roblox about how big should you be able to modify the crotch bulge of an avatar in the game. And I'm like, modify the crotch bulge in a game that has at least 40% children using it, that you purport... Look at what the first fucking line of this response is. I'm sorry, I said first. First line of the second paragraph, right? First they say we don't talk about litigation. However, then we go into the second paragraph. Every day, tens of millions of people around the world use Roblox to learn STEM skills, play, and imagine and have a safe experience on our platform. You are talking about this as though some fucking 60-year-old is logging in to learn STEM skills. No, you know who learns STEM skills? An 8-year-old. That's your user. 8-year-olds, children, minors. But of course, you obscure by saying people when what you mean is mostly children. Because right there, pretending, deflecting, have to make it sound as good as possible. But your game, where fucking Susie logs on at 8 to learn STEM skills, you are simultaneously sitting in a boardroom with a bunch of assholes saying, how big should the crotch bulge be for old Susie when she logs in? You know, should she be able to figure out the hypotenuse of the cock compared to the blah, blah, blah? Like, do you hear this? That might not be how they phrased it, but that's what that discussion is. Is how do we simultaneously support the 5-year-old logging into play along with the jack-off who wants to make his dick look like a coiled serpent in his pants in the game played by the 5-year-old? If I run Roblox, you know what I do? I sit in that meeting. This jackass stands up, mentions this. You know, we have a problem. Oh, what's the problem? Well, you know, we got to figure out what's the maximum crotch bulge in Roblox going to be. I look at that fucker and go, 0. Pack your shit and get out of my fucking building. There will be no crotch bulge in Roblox. And if we deem a crotch bulge acceptable at some point, it will be because we have created a walled-off 18-plus version of Roblox that we probably won't even call Roblox so that there's no confusion. So we can separate the person who wants the sexual experience from children. Because no one's saying that you can't have both, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not being prudish here. You want to have crotch bulge game, you go have crotch bulge game. This is an issue going on right now with Steam, where you have these shithead payment processors who are trying to shut down games that they don't like because they feature content that they don't like. And some of that content is fucking weird, don't get me wrong. But welcome to America. Yeah, it's weird. You don't play it then if you don't like it. But you don't get to control what everybody says and does. That's just not acceptable. It's a slippery slope. However, Roblox makes its mission statement clear. It's a family/children platform. So yeah, why are we talking crotch bulge? So these are all talking points that, again, you can get from Andrew and other users. I don't know if I'm unique in my other thoughts here, but it's something that's been rattling around in my brain and I want to get out. I think the other issue at play here comes down to activism. What do I mean? Again, I try to be fair, right? Left versus right. This is, however, a left-leaning idea, which is that what most people just say is a pedophile has been reclassified for the purpose of sanitization as a minor attracted person. If you have ever heard the term MAP, that's what that means. MAP is minor attracted person, and what does that actually mean? It's a pedophile. But the far left activists, because again, I'm fair, this isn't your average I shop at Trader Joe's and I drive a Prius leftist. This is I set Starbucks on fire during protests and riots mindset. This is the extremist who unfortunately festers within places like our colleges. This is a topic that gets brought up in academia. You know, that's what you're paying for with your college tuition is some asshole to show up at a lecture hall and talk to you about the plight of the MAP and how we're actually just mistreating them and it's not that big a deal, and on and on and on and on. So that talking point is among this activist crowd. Here's the problem. That activist crowd is within the industry in a significant enough amount or volume. The numbers are high enough that activism is finding itself in the things we play. And I'm talking, this is gaming, but this is entertainment as a whole. So film, television, music, books, games. That crowd of that extremist bent works on this stuff. So I think it's kind of essential that this litigation going on with Louisiana and other states moves forward, but moves forward to the point where you have discovery, which, based on my 10 minutes of research as a legal person, is you are in process of a trial, whatever. The attorneys can ask to see things. You know, we want to see your communications. So if I'm the state of Louisiana, and if I'm that person, Merle, she should be saying, yeah, we're not going to settle. You know, we're definitely not going to settle. You are going to court with us over this, and we are going to do discovery, and we're going to look at your logs. We want to see every communication. Executives, but also, and then this is the Robert talking point, we want to see what your moderators are up to. We want to see what your devs are up to. We want to see what they're talking about internally in terms of this issue. Because I am of the opinion, again, this is all alleged, this is all just me spitballing, right? I'm of the opinion that I think part of the reason this problem is as out of control as it seems to be is because you've got probably people on the inside who are saying, oh, we can't turn these guys in. We can't turn on the MAP community. that finds safe haven in Roblox, that would be evil. They are, again, this is not me. This is the activists talking. I'm just taking what I'm being told by them. They're not only defending the pedophile, but they're swept into and under the LGBTQ banner. So if you say I'm anti-MAP or I don't think they deserve protections and on and on and on, they get that protection now. They're able to say, oh, well, you must hate LGBTQ people then. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? What does being LGBTQ have to be with doing? What does that have to do with being a pedophile? But that's what's happening, and it's very strategic because you are meant to be intimidated if you question this, if you say anything about it. If you come out and argue, yeah, I don't like, that you're trying to create safe spaces and havens for MAPs. They're just pedophiles. They're incredibly problematic, and on and on and on, whatever opinion you might have about them. This is meant to intimidate you by being able to say, well, then you must just hate LGBTQ people. And then what happens? You're canceled. People say what an evil person you are. You're an ist. You're a phobe. So I think that if you go into Discovery, you might very well see, hey, look at this. These people are systematically downplaying the presence of these predators because they don't want that to reach the upper echelons of management. Because, even up there it's possible, right? But I think the likelier scenario is that the people that run Roblox are probably thinking, well, we do have all these security measures in place. We do this, we do that. And it's like, yeah, but you are being undermined by who you pay to work for you, who you allow to be a moderator, who you are letting control the game while you go snort cocaine or play golf or whatever the fuck you do during the day, instead of actually getting into the muck and looking at what's happening. So I think that is a distinct possibility, that there are these defenders and enablers within Roblox itself who are allowing this to happen and are maybe even making it happen. A lot of these activists, they are MAPs. So they're inclined for self-preservation's sake to try to normalize, try to say this is okay, try to have people turn the other way and pretend it's not happening. It's absolutely diabolical. But that angle, I don't think, is being discussed. I think what's just being discussed is there's gross negligence. It seems that they have been willingly ignoring all this stuff and pretending that it's not going on. So my hope is that obviously you bring an end to this shit. You have to clean it up. You have to significantly overhaul. Apparently there are things like biometric checks that can be used to help determine, is this an adult versus a minor, that are not being engaged. Every card you can pull to make sure that your users are adults versus children, you should be doing. Everything you can do to cordon off the kids from everybody else, you should be doing. We have fucking protocols where I work to protect our children. We have it set up to where, the extra small children are separated from the slightly bigger children, just to keep everybody safe. But then the great equalizer in terms of endangering people is apparently the game that they go home to play. And I find that frightening. I give a talk to our families to try to tell them, hey, do this and that to try to keep your kids safe online. But then it's like, I know a lot of them will let their kids go home and they play Roblox. So this year I got to sit and tell them, by the way, you ever sit and watch what Timmy's doing in Roblox? I'm going to say, how many of you have a kid that plays it? And probably going to see a bunch of hands go up. I'm going to say, so here's the thing. But it needs to happen. These talks need to happen. If you are in a position to educate families, parents, guardians of kids and just say, look, you got a young one on Roblox, you should be paying attention. This is what's happening. This is how you keep your kids safe. You need to do it. But, you know, again, based on what I'm seeing and hearing, what I've researched, it does not look good for Roblox. They don't look like the good guy here. They look like they're sending a corporate shithead to talk about STEM, knowing that they had meetings internally talking about how big is the crotch bulge gonna be. Don't fucking come to me to talk about STEM when you're talking about bulge. Those don't get to go hand in hand. They don't get to go together in a game that's supposed to be for children. So that was topic one. Again, I apologize if that was a bit much for some of you out there, but something I think is absolutely worth talking about. But another interesting article that caught my eye was Disney's Boy Trouble. Studio seeks original IP to win back Gen Z men amid Marvel Lucasfilm struggles. So this comes from Variety. So I believe Penske Media owns Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, a couple others. This is all the corporate approved messaging. And these are people, as far as I'm concerned, alleged, I suspect, don't have facts. But I strongly feel that these are people who are told what they can and can't say. For one thing, if you're somebody who watches anything like Nerdrotic, for example, or even like a Critical Drinker, a WDW Pro, these are talking points that have been going around for years now. Except when they were talking about it, they're just, again, ists and phobes, right? But now Variety's reporting on it. So what that means in terms of who's been allowed to say what, I don't know, but it's fascinating. But the larger discussion, this idea of studio seeks original IP to win back Gen Z men. That's funny, because you had male brands. Traditionally, Marvel and all of its comic book characters, male-dominated. Star Wars. Yes, women love Star Wars, but you know who love it more? Men. That's just how it is, my friends. If you think otherwise, you're probably fucking crazy. You probably have I don't even want to imagine what your Reddit wall looks like. I'm sorry, but it's like, to argue otherwise, you are not a part of reality. You are either just a crazy activist or just crazy. But that's what these brands were. Up to before Disney started to tinker. So, here you are. You're Disney. You get your hands on not Spider-Man just yet, right? At least in comic book form you have him. But you have Captain America. You have Iron Man. You have the Hulk. You have Luke Skywalker. You have Han Solo. You have Darth Vader. You have all these things that appeal to men. And lo and behold, they also appeal to women in enough volume that you would think, damn, we're never going to make something that everybody wants. But we're pretty damn close with Star Wars and Marvel. A shit ton of males like it. And there are plenty of women who do too. And the interesting thing is that they love it for the same reasons that the men do. And the boys. So you don't really even need to tinker with it, because they're already on board. It's like, yeah, I like it for the same reason the dudes do. I like Luke. I think Leia's a strong female character, but I like all these men characters too. It's like, there's stuff for women. Women get to have these things that are for them. And nobody sits and questions and says, well, how come you're not making it a little more inclusive to the boys? It's always, oh no, there's something wrong with the boys and the men. And so there need to be changes to quote unquote pull in the women. But here's where my mindset goes, okay? I have heard other people talk about this stuff. I'm just kind of, I don't know, my mindset's a little bit different, okay? The message. What do I mean when I say that? We've all heard the message used. It is, again, it's politicking. It's activism. In the case of the message, it tends to come from the left. So left-wing talking points, okay? Things dealing with intersexual feminism, what most people would call woke. That is the message. And when Marvel got their hands on these properties, the message starts coming fast and furious into every product. And you see the diminishment of the male, particularly if it's a white male. But men in general, they become subservient to female characters, and the female characters come in and are weirdly flawless. And when I say flawless, I don't mean, like a beautiful... We're not talking Jessica Alba flawless. We're talking pristine souls. The term Mary Sue gets used, particularly with a character like Rey Palpatine. Oh, I'm sorry, Skywalker. In Star Wars. This is all you get, predominantly, from Marvel. From Star Wars. Look what they did to Indiana Jones. You have Harrison Ford, his last turn as Indiana Jones, and you got Phoebe Waller-fucking-Bridge along for the ride. Why? Don't know. Why is this not an adventure with Sala? He's still alive. He's in the film. I wish you could go back in time and have Indy and Sala on a final adventure together, since the other actors are gone. But no. No, you get Phoebe Waller-fucking-Bridge, and you're supposed to act like, hey, thank you. Wow. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I really needed that. All those women that loved Indiana Jones, it was absolutely because they actually hated it, and were thinking, I need this underwhelming British brunette woman to come and, fix Indy. Make it for the modern audience. That's another term. You hear that term, your favorite franchise is about to get fucked. Modern audience just means message included. So Disney does this, again, systematically to all of its properties. It extends into the comic books. It extends into Star Wars. And they've been doing it for years. They do it so well that it absolutely undermines all of their properties. So now you have a brand like Star Wars, which used to be able to do things like print money with merchandising alone, to where they can't even do crowdfunding for certain things because it's based on characters that nobody gives a flying shit about. You got Reva from, Obi-Wan. I think they tried to crowdfund, like, her lightsaber or something. And everyone was like, I don't want her fucking lightsaber. Nobody likes this character. But, of course, what happens? You don't like that character? What has Disney been doing all this time? Disney actively comes out and just says, these people who don't like these things are crazed, redneck, MAGA, hillbilly, racists, homophobic, on and on. Everything you can think of. Actively attacking the fan base. Because if you do, you get brownie points on social media with the activist crowd. But here's where my independent thinking comes in. It's not really independent because I've heard other people say this too, but I do believe the insertion of the message is a top-down thing. If you have ever, or perhaps you haven't, I don't know, Film Threat, right, with Chris Gore. That site published something called the D-Files. Maybe I should link to those in the description for this too. And the D-Files just kind of went over everything Disney was doing to weed out the problematic, basically white people at the company. But not only were they weeding them out, they were systematically inserting in people who fit within DEI, yes, but not just DEI, right? I would be a DEI hire because I'm brown, I'm Mexican. But I'm not the right type of Mexican. And this is how they talk. Look at Pedro in Fantastic Four. He was allegedly cast because he is quote-unquote white passing. Meaning you throw him on screen, he's going to confuse white people because they'll be like, well, he doesn't sound like the guy that mows my lawn, so I guess he's white. Because brown people only sound a certain way. Don't believe me? There are absolutely people who think like that. And the Disney executives apparently, allegedly, think that way too. So they'll talk about casting choices based on that. That's how you were able to have an almost traditional casting for FF. That's 3 white people and 1 Pedro. But Pedro passes, so you technically kind of, in the eyes of Hollywood, have the traditional white Fantastic Four. This is what they do. So in the D-Files, you find out they're casting, but you have to think a certain way. And by casting, I mean casting you as a statistic. You are this gender, you are this sexual group, sexual orientation group, and on and on and on. But you also have to be adhering to the message. You push the message. So Disney's sitting there pulling in people who they're finding on Tumblr, they're finding on Reddit, they're finding on social media. And they're like, you're close enough to what we're looking for. And we'll just have one of the old white guys teach you how to do what you need to do that you don't know how to as they're going on their way out the door, because we're going to replace you with them. Now, see, this is where I'm very jaded, too. Because, yeah, it's activism coming top down, but I guarantee you that those black, brown, and every other group you can think of, people that they hired as part of this initiative, they ain't making as much as those people that they booted, as the people that they encouraged to leave. I think that was also part of the goal, was we get to say how forward-thinking we are, but oh yeah, they make 1/3 of the salary. Funny that. No health insurance. Even funnier, right? Ha ha. That's the goal. But I think management, and this is where I won't go too deep into my thoughts, but let's just say I think there's external forces that told management, this is the direction we're going. You push this identity talking point. You push that identity talking point. Social justice, intersectional feminism, on and on and on. These all go into your projects. Why do you think it seems like they don't really care for the longest about whether or not people like the content, if it's making profit? Because they're being told from such high up forces, this is what you are going to do. However it's sold to them, I don't know. Like I said, within the company, you've got the true believers. They've drafted them. They've got these activists internally at the company running everything from Pixar to Disney Studios itself. Marvel. And you get the message easily because they're in positions of power within the company. But that only happens because management puts them there. And they're being told, put them there. So when you're like, they're learning I'll hear this from people like, Gary on Nerdrotic. It's like, they're not learning the right lesson from any of this. It's like, no, there's no lesson to be learned. You're supposed to learn the lesson. You, me, the audience, we're learning the lesson. And what is the lesson? The lesson is the message. A hero is this, not that thing you used to like. And if you don't like this thing, you're not getting anything else. You're not going to use the traditional, we're not going to watch it. And then it tanks. What happens? Instead, something is dog shit. Well, you just simply activate all your journalists and say, we got to make sure this gets a pretty decent review. And if you don't give it a good review, you have to say how great the message parts were. This movie wasn't that cool or wasn't that good. The story was blah, blah, blah. But I really loved that there was an empowering so-and-so featured predominantly in the film. It was the first blank to be in a Marvel role, on and on and on. You hammer home how important those things are, that everyone likes that thing, and anyone who doesn't is, again, an ist, a phobe, a problem. You get, Ewan McGregor to sit in his car and film something on his phone saying all those nasty ists and phobes that, are in the Star Wars crowd. Well, you're not real Star Wars fans as far as I'm concerned. Now, don't get me wrong. There are these pieces of shit out there. There are people who are absolutely racist and hated Reva because she was black. I can guarantee you that those people are out there. I, however, am of the opinion that those people are the extreme minority. And then instead, other people were just like, well, her character is just kind of boring, or she doesn't make sense. Whatever real criticisms you might have. But because, again, the message trumps all. The message is the point of the entertainment. It's a vehicle for conveying these thoughts and re-educating people and getting them to think in a new way. Because that's the goal. You have to attack everyone. This quote-unquote majority. Because the average person does think these things in terms of like, you can shoot down the middle, you lean a little left, you lean a little right, you will hit most people with traditional Star Wars. Because it is as close as you're going to get to appealing to most people. But the problem is you're trying to educate in a new way most people with the message and the thinking of the message. So if they won't play ball and they won't re-evaluate how they look at the world, they won't change their opinions on things, they tell you this sucks. Well, what do? You demonize them. And you hope that you get enough people playing ball and on board with the message that it overwhelms the people who are standing their ground and they just comply. Or they're ostracized. That's how cancel culture works. You know, not to lean too much into politics, but look at X, right? There were the X files, or whatever they call it, Twitter files. And Elon's showing all these communications with the government and on and on. It's like, all of this is very carefully orchestrated, okay? I don't know how you don't connect the dots when you see all these things, but that's what I'm getting. And when I'm listening to other shows talking, and it's like, it's that idea of, they're not it's like, no, you're not understanding. They don't fucking care that you don't like it. They don't care that you think this doesn't make sense. They don't care it lost money or isn't likely to make money the way it was. They are ramming your head into the brick wall over and over and over until you see what they want you to see, you say what they want you to say. Now, is there a shift going on in the country? I think there is. It feels like it. You know, the Sydney Sweeney ad was just some normalcy that, again, the freakish activist side that's amplified very intentionally on social media, because those same people I'm talking about at like Roblox, who weasel their way into the company, and it's like, yeah, we're going to push our activist messaging. Again, this is my theory. I'm alleging this, right? Those same people are in every facet of entertainment, like I told you earlier. But they're also in tech. And so, yeah, you don't think you think it's a happy accident that the Sydney Sweeney thing happens, and all of a sudden these talking heads that you've never fucking heard of, crying in their cars, acting crazy about some woman in jeans because she's hot. Oh, it's Yahtzees, it's this, it's that, it's practically Adolf on the move in Poland. I mean, these are morons. But it ain't an accident that they get amplified, because the right people in the right positions make sure that they're amplified. So here comes Disney. After all that, I guess the money's just starting to dry up a little much. Or the politics are shifting. I don't know what it is. But let's go into this article just a little bit. Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty aren't the only ones looking for a prince. Leadership at Walt Disney Studios has been pressing Hollywood creatives in recent months. Multiple sources tell Variety. For movies that will bring young men back to the brand in a meaningful way. Young men is defined here by sources as ages 13 to 28. aka Gen Z. First, duh! Every film studio is looking for better ways to convert young audiences into habitual moviegoers. Numerous studies show that Gen Z men in particular are a lonely, gaming-obsessed group who were hampered in their formative years by COVID-19 lockdowns. Not the easiest segment to grasp. But what's surprising producers, writers, and other partners in the larger industry is that Disney has been calling for original concepts to lure the demo back to the movies. So, let's go into that a little bit. First of all, this idiot's saying first, duh! I mean, yeah, duh, but what you'll find if you read this Variety article, I'm not going to read all of it here, is that this, again, is a writer who is either an activist or an ally, but it's somebody that will not just talk about it plainly. Like, you know, everything I just told you about what Disney's been doing all these years with all their movies and on, all of that's intentional, okay? And then Gen Z men, the real duh here is that Gen Z men are a lonely gaming obsessed group. You can thank shitty parents for that. They just let these poor boys fester. Don't really pay them much mind. Look at how school operates. Not every school, but schools across the country. The emphasis is on girls. And everything that's done wrong by boys, quote unquote, to girls. Now, again, I know things happen. I know boys can do stupid shit. I've seen it. I get it. But the default attitude in the mainstream is that the ones that need fixing are boys. And it's just perpetually, you do this wrong, you do that wrong. You know, oh, you think girls are hot, you fucking pig. And then you grab an issue of Teen Vogue, and what does it say? How to French kiss boys. So it's like, well, I don't get it. The girls are over here sexualizing and everything's fine. The boys are basically told, don't do that. You know, if you even get a hard-on looking at a girl bent over, you're a fucking pig. No. This is just natural. Men and women are sexually attracted to each other. From the time you hit puberty, you start feeling that. You like girls, or if you're gay, you like the same sex. But the point is that this is just a natural part of life. You grow up, you start feeling sexually attracted to whoever you are, but the group that gets the scrutiny is the boys. Now, like I said, I'm not diminishing, I understand it. If anyone's a little more aggressive here, it's obviously the boys, but it's not like every fucking man and every fucking boy is a sexual predator. But you basically get kind of treated that way by, again, mainstream media. The popular talking points. That's what gets pushed. And so, here's Disney. They go along with all that narrative. All of their content diminishes men. Look at The Last Jedi. The treatment of Poe. Dude's treated like a piece of shit. He's portrayed as the brash, hot-headed, blah, blah, blah. But if you sit and watch Poe in the film, you're like, well, I don't really see anything he did being wrong. It's not like he did all this super crazy, reckless shit in the build-up to the way General Holdo treats him. But that's what you get, is he's treated like a little boy. He's treated like, oh, you know, all the women are right. You're just one of those dumb men. That messaging's everywhere. It's not even subtle. I know I spot it when I'm watching things. This is before, you know, I even listen to any of the people that I have on, like, YouTube. I could see it and feel it when I'm watching, just as a fan. I'm like, this is kind of weird. You know, there's been a shift, you know, like, the people I would root for aren't portrayed the way that they would be portrayed. I was just flipping through volume, I think it's 3, of the J. Michael Straczynski run of Amazing Spider-Man. And in that volume, this is leading up to the reconciliation of Peter and Mary Jane. They had been separated. It's its own story. Maybe I'll get into it one day. But the point is, they're talking. So things are not perfect between the two of them. And Peter has to explain why he faked out on her when they were supposed to meet. And it's this long thing, right? It's a really clever use of text where the word bubble is just filled with Peter explaining himself, right? And it ends with him saying, he's on the astral plane, I was an astral. And Mary Jane, like, laughs and is like, astral. That's kind of close to the word I was thinking. But here's where you would never get away with this now. Marvel editorial would make sure you never write another comic. Peter actually defends himself and says, yo, hey, my aunt's here. Like, you're calling me an asshole right in front of my aunt. What's wrong with you? You can never do that sort of thing now. The message forbids it. So, it's been years of this weird shit. These portrayals of characters in ways that don't mesh with reality. That push tropes and concepts and looks and designs. Everything that is just like, I don't like this. I don't want to see it. I'm not down with it. This doesn't reflect reality. That's what the message is. Why do you think it's been so grossly rejected by people? Because you just instinctively are like, what the fuck is this? Look at Concord. The multiplayer game from Sony that bombed last year. Big time, right? They invested all this money. They thought it was going to be Sony's Star Wars. Oh my god, I would kill to be a fly on the wall for those meetings. Where you have these jackass executives. Oh yeah, this is going to be great, man. We're going to make movies, maybe comics. We'll do a manga. Maybe we'll make like a special Concord boba. I think the kids love boba, right? The second you saw that roster, you're just like, what the fuck is this? And see, that reaction, what does that reaction get? That reaction gets a video game journalist to say, you're just an estenophobe. You hate it because it's diverse. It's like, no, I don't hate it because it's diverse. I hate it because it looks like it came from the fucking flea market. Like, this looks like the shitty fake action figures where it's a combination of DC superheroes with Marvel packaging, and it's a Spawn action figure, but the paint's all wrong. Like, what is this garbage? It's like it's intentionally poorly designed. And you're supposed to invest money? It's, quote-unquote wokeism in a nutshell right there. Where the audience is just looking and saying, yeah, I don't like this. Why would I want this? It's awful. I'm Mexican. I'm one of these mythical modern audience people that these activist type pretends is out there. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm down with, you want to give me a cool, some kind of Latino character? Okay, whatever. Like, if you read Warren Ellis's Thunderbolts run, he introduces American Eagle. Reintroduces an older character. But he's like a Native American, and he has like this badass like USA theme to him, but he like lives on a reservation. Just I looked at that character and was like, this is so cool. Like, it's like he has a view on the country that is distinct with him being a Native American. He's, it's like on and on, right? Like, I could feel it. I was just like, this is kind of cool. I'm Mexican. I'm kind of down with this. I've got Indian blood in me. I'm enjoying. When you do it right, I'm down, dude. I'm cool with it. If you look at the cast of Rogue One, that is DEI in action. That is a multicultural staff, or cast, right? All these different characters. Not once was I sitting and distracted by it. Because they were all people that I could root for. Everybody was pretty cool. But once it kicked into all this crap we've been getting for the past few years, it's just like, what have you done? I am not interested. So unless I am also somehow racist, but according to the far left definition of racism, it's impossible anyway. Why am I not into Concord? Why am I not into all these things you keep producing? Because they fucking suck. Disney made things that were great suck. Star Wars sucks now. I'm sorry. The only time I get excited about Star Wars is because it's something from years ago that is drawing me in. I found a copy of Shadows of the Empire a couple months ago. Beautiful hardcover. Never had the hardcover as a kid. I always had the little paperback version. I bought it instantly. I'm sitting and rereading it. All the great comics over the years. Different trilogies of books. I bought a hardcover copy of episode 3. had it years ago as a kid, never read it, and now I'm like, I keep hearing this is like one of the greatest Star Wars books ever written. I kind of want to read it. But in terms of giving them money, I don't give them money. I try not to, because Disney kind of has made it clear that the activist that works for them does not like me. I am not a Mexican who thinks the way that they want them to. Which is really kind of hilarious when you consider that a lot of these quote-unquote activists are the demographic that claims to not want me to be controlled by their demographic. Unless, again, I'm having the bad thoughts that I'm not supposed to have. Oh, you're supposed to be, this way. So now they're sitting around grasping. And it's like, you could fix all this, dude. You know how you fix it? You fucking fire all these people. You get rid of, like, Marvel Comics, I've already said, you gut editorial. You say all of you are gone. Every one of you, especially all these assistant editors. Many of you are just here because this is your way of inserting your political fan fiction into all of this. Gone. Goodbye. You do it on the film side. Allegedly, they did do this a bit on the film side for Marvel, where they tried to weed out as many of the activists as they could. But it's like, yeah, but you also don't want to embrace the comic side of things. You don't want to make things match the comics. Part of it is DEI and, the message, but I think part of it is also sort of just Hollywood elitism. They don't like this stuff anyway. They look at it as lowbrow crap. Which it is not. But when you don't get that, you get the disasters that are getting churned out. And it's pretty sad. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Lucasfilm is a nightmare. It's been talked to death, so I'm not going to really focus on it all that much. But, Kathleen Kennedy, I cannot stand her. I cannot stand this weird, like, kind of bizarre, close-set little eyes, just this strange person who gets her hands on something as precious as the Lucasfilm IP. And it just shits all over it. Now, to be fair to her, I mentioned top-down. I mean, people were probably telling her at Disney, you need to do this, you need to do that. And she's like, okay. But I get the sense she absolutely buys into it. Might be wrong. I don't know. KK might be the greatest person ever, and I'm just evil because I get distracted looking at her face, and I'm just like, ugh, I can't stand you. But that's the vibe I get. And she has, without repercussions as far as we've seen, just been fucking everything up left and right. Look at Mandalorian. You have that final scene where Luke shows up in season 2. And it's just like, oh, that's kind of cool. Here comes Luke, with his green lightsaber. He's kicking the crap out of all these robots. That's pretty much what everybody wants, guys. When you look at the sequel trilogy, it's like, it was not a hard mission statement, my friends. Give me one final trilogy of stories with the original cast. And yeah, you want to introduce some new people along the way, okay? But the focus needs to be on the old. And you do just a good enough job introducing the new characters that by the time this trilogy concludes, then you can try spinning them off and saying, and then here comes the next, trilogy. No, the message is what mattered. It trumped everything. You get Ruin Johnson shows up and just obliterates Luke Skywalker. I mean, it's just... And here's KK in our Lord's Year 2025. No repercussions. So, I think that Disney... I mean, I don't know. It's weird. See, this is where I'm confidently being the tinfoil hat wearer, talking about why I think things are the way that they are. But I am looking at this and it is confusing because you think, well, take Star Wars, you say that trilogy is defunct in some way. It's an Elseworld story, it's an alternate universe, and you introduce someone to play a young Luke Skywalker. Everybody talks about Sebastian Stan. I don't give a shit. I mean, if you're gonna recast, all right. Mark Hamill's too old, fine. But if you refocus things on Luke, you give us traditional hero's journey, hero's stories, you could maybe fix things. But, I mean, a lot of the pundits I listen to think Star Wars and Lucasfilm, all that stuff is just kind of dead. Maybe Disney feels the same way. They might be looking and saying, we have fucked these brands up so much, it is just not going to be possible to fix the damage that we have caused. And, like, maybe they're kind of holding out hope with Marvel, but look what's happened this summer. Nothing they did was very successful, and I liked Fantastic Four. But the audience apparently didn't like it enough to show up and actually watch it. So maybe Disney's panicking, saying, shit, even the Marvel stuff is not doing well. Maybe they're doing internal tracking and saying, all these people, we've tried to ask people who went to go see the last two Avengers movies, are you going to come see Doomsday and Secret Wars? And, we're getting 40% positive, 60% negative. And that's with paying Robert Downey Jr., $500 billion fucking dollars or whatever they're giving him. The Russo brothers, please, God, come back. All of it could be for naught. It could just be pointless. And they might be seeing that, and they're just like, dear God, we have to find something else. But here's the scary thing, is what do they find? I don't want Disney to touch anything. You got a bunch of talentless jackasses at your company. And, like, part of me just sits and thinks, well, maybe part of the strategy is you let Marvel and Lucasfilm fizzle out to the point where you're like, oh, yeah, we got to close up shop. Marvel's going to take a break, Lucasfilm. But we got this shiny new IP, and you hire talent that's actually talented again and let them have at it. So you have basically cut the cord of all the activist types without having to say we fired them just like outright. Because my slash and burn scenario would cause major problems with the activists. Because the first thing they do is say, look at who they're firing. They're getting rid of us. This identity group. That identity group. We all know why. And then the amplified activist ass face on social media comes along and says, yeah, see, look, they fired so-and-so. They must hate group blank. So if you're Disney, you're like, how do we fire them without actually having to, like, say we're firing them? Let those two brands just fucking die. Put them in the vault. Focus on the new IP. And then in like 15 years, say, we are restarting the Marvel Universe. We are restarting Star Wars. We feel like they've had enough time to breathe, and we're going to capture a new generation. But that only works if the new IP you get your hands on, you don't Disneyfy. You don't do what you've been doing for like 15 years now. You have to actually make it appeal to the norms of society, which are still the norms, except to the activist who pretends they're not, or pretends they're problematic, tells you how evil and awful you are because you think something that was normal back in 1997. I mean, I've talked about just how obnoxious it is, these labels of left and right. Because as far as I'm concerned, most Americans are pretty much center, maybe lean right. And if you're on the coast, they probably lean a little bit more left. But a lot of these just talking points are things that there is no controversy more often than not. The majority of people are heterosexual. How often is it just outright demonized? And the scary thing is demonized in particular among young people who are like being raised, entire swaths of them, to think things that are normal are not normal. Much to the detriment of them as people. Look what's happening to a lot of these Gen Zers. They come into like the workplace, they don't know what the fuck to do. There's like actual expectations. They have to deal with people who don't think exactly like them. They lose their mind. They go make videos in the bathroom at the Starbucks that they're working at, and they're just like, I cannot believe they're asking me to work 35 hours this week. And I have to go to school? And it's like, wow, congratulations. That's what everyone has had to do for years. You're lucky you weren't born in 1910 and you would have been a child laborer in a factory or something. It's just, this is what's been churned out. But thanks in part to media companies like Disney that show up with this ridiculous programming, putting stuff in their heads that just is not reflective of reality. And it's just such a mess. But again, I don't want them touching anything. I don't want them to get their hands on any manga. I don't want them to get their hands on any video game properties. Because there is still the possibility that it's just, no, it's like communism. No one's done it right yet, but it is the right idea. So we're going to get our hands on great IP, whatever that might be, and put the message in, but this time we'll do it right. It's like, no, you're not. You're not going to do it right. Because it isn't right. It doesn't make sense. It just runs against what reality actually is. No thank you. So that's your Variety article. And again, the person who wrote it, it's not talking about any of that. It's just a bunch of pre-approved talking points on why they're failing, but it's none of the actual reasons. It's these approved, the message reasons. Just such a joke, man. But at least they're talking about it. But audiences know. People know. It's just a matter of being able to get out there and, address it. And not feel like you're going to be demonized. Not feel like you're going to be labeled this awful, terrible human being because your two fucking eyeballs work. And your senses have not left you. So, that's what's going on with our friends at Disney. So, I have been talking a bit. It has been over an hour. So, here's what I'm thinking. I want to talk Gamescom. So, I think I'm going to stop this episode here. And then transition into just a Gamescom talk. And it might be like a bonus episode for this season. So I think that is probably the most sensible way to handle this. You're going to get a bonus episode of the podcast, which is just talking about Gamescom. Maybe another topic or two. We'll see what happens when I decide to talk for real. But that's what I'm thinking. So I hope this episode was, I hope it... I have my opinions, right? I share them, probably being more frank in this episode than I've been in previous ones. I have said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I have opinions and views that are absolutely on the left, that people I listen to wouldn't agree with. And I have opinions that definitely lean right. But I feel like a lot of my opinions, it's just shit that you would have said 20 years ago and never thought one way or the other about it. And that kind of argument does get thrown around a lot, but I find it very compelling. I think that we are living in this very strange time where your thoughts and opinions are heavily regulated by these external forces that are social media and all these different platforms that are out there. And a lot of what gets talked about is just, it makes zero sense. But we're all scared to talk about it because you've been conditioned to think, well, I talk about it, I voice my opinions about it, I get canceled. My saving grace is that, I am a minority. I am a person of color. I'm Mexican. I have fucking Native American blood in me. It's like, playing by your rule book, it's kind of hard to pigeonhole me in with the white people that you demonize. But... it's a little scary to put your thoughts out there like I'm doing. Because it's just like, the wrong person sits and hears it. It's like, did you know that he thinks that Disney's just full of crazy ideologues? That's not okay. It could happen, I've had to deal with fucking lunatics online. There's a reason so much of the social stuff for what I run is pretty tightly regulated. It's because I had a maniac who came after me because they didn't like thoughts that I had about something in my city where I've lived for fucking since 1990. You know, I got some asshat who comes along and decides to tell me not only what I can and can't say about my own race, but within my own city where I've lived, you know, for over 30 years. That really pissed me off. And it pisses me off when I'm sitting and just thinking I have to tread on eggshells because some mob of whack jobs can try to come and silence me. But I'm almost 40. I'm so at my maximum in terms of tolerating nonsense. You know, I walk down my streets and I just see the stupidest shit. And I'm like, where's my police department? I spotted this problem in 2 seconds. Y'all see something downtown. I'm like, I don't even have to try it. It's like, yeah, fucking deadbeat, breaking a law, doing something he's not supposed to. You can come grab him now. Come tell him to get the fuck lost. No, doesn't happen. You know, we're not even allowed to have police. We have a group in lieu of police that you're supposed to talk to first. And guess what? When you talk to them and they go deal with the problem, if the problem becomes agitated and violent and et cetera, and like an arrest needs to be made or somebody needs to be tasered or who knows what, right? They can't do it. They actually just call the police. So you call someone to call the police for you is how that works. Why? Because the people who have been living here for 5 years and live out of their house, everything's DoorDash to them, or they only go to the nice parts of my town and don't actually have to deal with this stuff, they determine that they feel better if you call the intermediary to call the police for you. So maybe that will help explain my frustrations a little bit. I don't like this stuff. It's stupid. And then when I'm looking at things that I've cared about my whole life, like some of the Disney properties, some of the Lucasfilm properties, I'm like, yeah, I really don't like that you are taking these things that mean so much to so many, and it's a tool for your politicking bullshit. And now we've got Disney. We have to get another IP. Oh, okay. So you can ruin that too, huh? Because you ruined the other stuff already. Go cry to someone else. Preferably, you know, at the new Cracker Barrel. I'm sure they'll be able to, they could use the business after the nightmare they're making of their brand. Oh, man. All right. Maybe that was a downer of an episode. I don't know. But thank you for listening. And again, bonus episode. Everything goes well. I have links again to the Andrew Esquire, aka Legal Mindset video, and the D-Files. So you can check those things out for yourself. But yeah, thank you for listening. I guess that's it.